Sorry. Okay, just to catch up where I'm at. First of all, I need to apologise to my colleagues with regard to starting 10 minutes early. They were actually on time. We were early, and I've noted their concerns.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we've now got before us the RACQ. Welcome representatives from the RACQ, and for the record, could you please state your name and position?
Paul Turner, Executive General Manager Advocacy at RACQ.
Michael Roth, Executive Manager Public Policy for RACQ.
Paul, opening statement.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I want to thank the committee for inviting RACQ here today. RACQ is the independent advocate for Queensland motorists with 1.2 million members across the state. Our advocacy charter incorporates 3 priorities, which include safety, affordability and sustainable mobility. RACQ recently explored a range of ride-sharing issues in an online survey of 1,009 adults, representative of the Queensland demographic profile. Our policy position is informed by the expressed views from this survey, and we have copies of the survey available for the committee if they wish.
You see, we'd like you to table those if you could.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Table them now. Do you want to?
We have 5 copies.
Fantastic. RACQ is opposed to the legislative amendments contained in the Private Members Bill, the Transport Legislation Taxi Services Amendment Bill 2015, for 2 reasons. Firstly, the RACQ strongly opposes the proposed imposition of demerit points on drivers convicted of ride-sharing in Queensland. The RACQ believes demerit points have been introduced for one reason only, to penalise drivers who undertake dangerous acts on our roads. They are to combat the senseless death of more than 200 Queenslanders a year and the serious injury of hundreds more. The purpose of Queensland's demerit point system is to make roads safer by encouraging motorists to drive responsibly. The current list of demerit offences is included in Schedule 3 of the Transport Operations Road Use Management Driver Licensing Regulation 2010. The list only includes road safety related offences. They are not to be used in some clumsy attempt to impose a regulatory outcome where other, more traditional policing measures have failed or are better used elsewhere. In fact, the fundamental premise of the proposed amendments may be flawed. RACQ's understanding is that the Queensland Government and the courts of this state have yet to prove that ride-sharing is an illegal taxi service. We understand that convictions for ride-sharing have...
Order. Let's keep it all under control, guys.
We understand that convictions for ride-sharing have not occurred in Queensland where the charge has been challenged. We also understand the state government is undertaking a review of the legislation pertaining to taxis and ride-sharing. In essence, a road safety management tool such as demerit points should not be used by regulators as a commercial penalty. Secondly, RACQ believes ride-sharing as a disruptive influence in the point-to-point transport system should be considered in a holistic review of the taxi regulations, as recently announced by the Queensland Government. RACQ supports the Queensland Government reviewing the Transport Operations Passenger Transport Act 1994 to consider whether ride-sharing and other future transport options can improve the mobility of Queenslanders. In fact, we want the review to conclude faster. When asked whether they felt people should have a choice of taxis or ride-sharing services, RACQ respondents, survey respondents, 80% of respondents agree that they should have a choice, and 80% agree that the government should set rules to ensure ride-sharing is safe. RACQ's position on ride-sharing is consistent with the views of the majority of the Queensland public. RACQ has 3 key objectives of legislative reform on point-to-point transport. These are: Objective 1, the need for regulatory reform. RACQ supports reforms that meet the needs of our members and improve the range of options in point-to-point public transport, including for vulnerable groups such as people with disabilities and the frail-aged. The reforms should allow flexible, innovative and responsive transport models to emerge rather than protecting entrenched business models. Objective 2, safety. Regulatory reform of point-to-point transport services should provide a safety framework that incorporates vehicle safety, driver safety and passenger safety. This would incorporate driver licence and criminal history checks, as well as safe driver training and vehicle inspections for taxis, limousines and ride-share providers. Objective 3, regulatory cost burden. Regulation should support industry reform and improve service delivery. while minimising regulatory and capital cost burdens that would increase the price structure of point-to-point services, including rideshare, taxis and limousines. In particular, the high government and licensing cost burdens on the taxi industry need to be reviewed. Specific licences, compulsory third-party insurance and motor insurance classes for ride-sharing services may also need to be considered. There may be need for transitional arrangements for this to occur. In closing, Mr Chair, I would like to state that ride-sharing is here to stay. It is currently not regulated in Queensland and therefore we are suffering the worst of both worlds. An operating industry used and desired by the community which has insufficient government oversight. Meanwhile, our taxi industry is overburdened with high government-imposed costs and very steep financial barriers to entry. Taxis will always be needed, but we must move quickly to reduce their cost burden and regulate ride-sharing to provide the best outcome for us, the consumer, and our transport system. Every business in the world is now under threat from disruption and competition. Burying our heads in the sand and hoping that it all goes away is not the answer, and it is not what the people of Queensland expect of their elected representatives. Thank you. We're happy to take questions.
Thanks, Paul. I haven't had time to have a look through this, as you would understand, but in putting the questions out there for the public to consider, did you highlight or make those people surveyed aware of the conditions that the taxis operate under versus the conditions that Uber operates under?
I might throw to Michael here. He managed this survey.
I need a good straight answer on this one too.
Yeah, look, the survey questions didn't expect a high level of knowledge on the taxi legislation, but they were objective questions about level of service that the taxi industry provides versus expectations on any future ride-sharing services.
Did you make those people you surveyed aware of the different structures that are operating here? What taxis obviously have got a lot of overheads, operate under a lot of stricter rules. We are able to follow their the money that they take versus something that doesn't have anything anywhere near that.
Consumers are concerned about the safety of the service, not the legislative
hang on,
environment.
guys. I can ask anybody to leave as a chair if you don't mind. I asked the question, did you make those people you surveyed
We didn't go through the detail of the legislation.
Okay, so I just want to know, I just want to have a good
Mr Chair,
understanding of the report.
just for your information, the report was very simple and upfront. It just asked questions about service, about clean cars, that's what it was about. Because what we wanted to know before we got into a policy position around ride sharing is what do our members think about what the service they're getting now, and if they're using ride sharing, what that service means. The regulatory reform and the burdens on the taxi industry are certainly serious questions, but they weren't the purpose of that survey.
Yeah, well, but you're using those.
We're using it to give you an insight into consumer views about the industry and about the service propositions that industry provides, not to the regulatory side.
Surveys are surveys, mate. I've been around for a while. And
Sure.
You'll get the answers that you put the question.
I'm happy to say that we've been doing this for about 100 odd years, Mr Chair, and we are very careful about how we service and how we survey our members, and we take very seriously the survey credentials when we do it.
And we are also happy to provide the detail of the survey instrument that we used, should you have any concerns on our objectivity or otherwise.
Okay, we'd be happy to have that if you can make that available to us. Michael.
Yes, gentlemen, as a company with an insurance arm, can I ask you where somebody who insures through you would stand if they were providing a rideshare facility and they had a major accident? What sort of coverage would they have?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, our position, just to be clear, I'm happy to answer that in a minute, but advocacy, the area that I run, is very separate from the insurance area, so we adopt policy separate from the corporate area. At the moment, that is a grey area. If people say that they are a commercial operator, then they may not be covered.
So did you take that into account when you put this survey out, that possibly your own company may not insure a driver that is...
As I said, Mr Hart, this is the advocacy position. What we asked was the consumer position. We didn't take into account our business operations.
Okay. I understand. What's the RACQ's view on regulation in general?
We think there's definitely a role for regulation because it's got to be about safety and it's about choice. See, we came to this position. It's ironic. We both caught cabs to this meeting. We didn't. That's how we got here. we are big supporters of the taxi industry. What we're not supporters of is allowing situations to develop which may put our members at risk, and also pretending that an industry doesn't exist, or using regulation or legislation to protect entrenched industries when it may not be in the best interests of consumers. That's all we worry about, is what's in the best interest of consumers. They're voting with their feet. A percentage of them think ride sharing is a viable option, regardless of the company providing it. So our view was we need to get an informed position on that. We went out to our members, we asked them, we've spoken to the Taxi Council, we've spoken to the ride sharing industry. We've come to the position that the best and safest way forward is for the ride sharing industry to be regulated, and for us to have a really good hard look at the cost and the barrier to entry for the taxi industry, so that it's more it's more flexible and can provide a genuine competition to the ride sharing.
Okay. I understand the difference between advocacy and your insurance arm, but when you finish here, can you go back to your office and talk to the insurance people and just say to them, okay, assuming, for instance, that ride sharing is deregulated in this state and it puts in place, what will be the occurrence of insurance as far as...
I can tell you, Mr. Hart, that if it is deregulated, that the insurance industry will have a product for ride sharing very, very quickly.
So there'll be a higher fee type
Absolutely.
product?
Well, insurance is based on risk. If someone does a lot more hours on the road than a normal driver, they will pay a higher premium. So therefore, what will probably happen across the industry is that there will be a ride-sharing product in each motor insurer, which will take that risk into account.
Sure. The inquiry into the ride-sharing industry doesn't come back till August next year, I think.
That's right.
It would really help the committee if we could get a position from the RACQ as to what would happen if someone had an accident.
Well, I don't think I can answer on behalf of the insurance industry. I just can't, because every insurer...
Can you answer on behalf of the RACQ?
Every insurer will be treated differently, and if they are a commercial operator operating and they're not paying commercial insurance, then they may not be covered.
Could you take it on notice and ask your insurance arm to come back?
Well, that's the answer I can give you. I have asked the insurance arm, and what they've said is if they're a commercial operator, regardless of how they're doing that, and they're not insured as a commercial operator, they may not be covered. But I can't give you a definitive, because it absolutely is a case-by-case.
It hasn't happened yet?
I'm unaware of one if it has.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, is RACQ supporting an illegal activity here?
Well, we're not sure. Is it illegal? I'm not sure that we've had a... our issue is, I think that's a great question, because what we're not supporting, we're certainly not supporting any particular company. What we do is we are one of hundreds of clubs around the world. We've seen the ride-sharing industry develop around the world. To pretend it's not going to happen, to pretend that in Queensland somehow we'll be different from the rest of the world when it comes to ride-sharing services is crazy. We need to, as a society, make sure that people are protected and regulated, but also make sure we get the best transport outcome. So I'm unaware of any convictions. Maybe the committee can help me in that, but I'm unaware of any convictions of ride-sharing drivers in Queensland under the current laws.
Paul, just a question. I suppose I understand your advocacy for RACQ, so I do understand that. But I'm just looking from a business point of view. What's RACQ's, or what's your feeling as a person on a person who has a taxi licence worth $500,000 and it being possibly devalued because of the issue we have here at the moment? Where do you stand there?
I don't know. If I was a Kodak shareholder, I'd say what happened about the digital camera. I mean, we've got to look at it two ways here. The taxi industry has been regulated and government has been milking it for decades. So the government has had hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in fees from the taxi industry for decades. So we believe as part of the regulation, the government needs to be honest about it, go back in, have a look at the industry and understand that there will probably have to be some sort of buyback scheme or compensation scheme for those who have paid a lot of money for a licence. We are seeing in other states this is already happening. I mean, it's not like we're in isolation here. This has already occurred in Canberra. It's occurring in New South Wales and Victoria, where they're looking into it. Annual taxi licences, lifetime taxi licences, different ways of managing this system are all being developed and are there easily for all of us to look at. So I don't believe this is an either-or situation. I don't think it's about legality or illegality. The basic fact is we're not talking about heroin traffickers here. We're talking about Ma and Pa Queenslanders driving their car and earning a few extra dollars on the weekend. Now, yes, there may be professional and there will be professional ride shares. There's no doubt about it. And they need to be...
It's not designed to increase the taxi plate price. It was designed to provide safe taxi services. And that's because the passengers are anonymous in the hailing and in the rank service. So the rank and the hail service should always be only limited to taxis. That is not something that rideshare should be allowed to do. But new technology offers a safe way of identifying the passenger as well as the driver through their credit cards and their membership of that app and that service. So that gets around the safety issue that the legislation and regulation was designed to address.
Yeah. I'll just take one more question.
Does the RACQ insurance division, do they provide insurance to ride-sharing service who identify themselves as ride-sharing service provider?
No.
Why not?
Because it's not a regulated industry.
So even though they're identifying as a share ride service, you won't insure them?
We will insure them for private travel.
So you won't add an extra cost because of the time that
As
they've
I
been on
said
there?
earlier, I think the industry is very keen to move towards a product that will provide cover and higher premiums probably because they'll be doing more driving for motorists in ride-sharing industry. But obviously it's very difficult for a very regulated industry like insurance or banking to provide those sort of services to an industry that's not currently regulated.
Just a quick question, Paul. If RACQ see this as ride-sharing, why are Uber concerned about these demerit points?
We believe demerit points are about road safety. That's all we care about. I haven't spoken to Uber about. We have met with Uber, obviously, as we met with yourselves and everyone else. I'm not sure we met on this, actually. I think that was ethanol. Sorry, Shane. But we have met with the Taxi Council and others on this issue. We think demerit points have a very clear role, and that is around road safety. We don't think they should be used for this, and we would oppose it for any other commercial regulation as well. Demerit points are about making our roads safer, not about a commercial outcome or driving right. ride sharers off the roads.
Thanks, Paul. Time has run out there, I'm sorry. But